Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is October 9th, 2020, and today I've got a flea market finds pick for you, and this is from September 20th of this year. It's a pretty decent pick, not a tremendous amount of stuff, but enough to make it have enough really good deals to have made it worthwhile for the drive out. So let's dive right in. First pick of the day was this tool holder. Quick change tool post tool holder that I spotted at a dealer who really didn't have much else in the way of machinist tools at all, but this orphan holder was sitting there, and I was hoping it was an Aloris, but it's not. It's marked 250-104, which is a dead giveaway that this is like a phase 2 or some import holder. It is a boring bar holder. I looked it up, and it's actually got a bushing in here you can remove, so you can either use it with the bushing for a 5/8 inch boring bar, or you can remove the bushing and use it for a 3/4 inch boring bar. Being that this is a generic import style holder, these aren't that expensive new. I think they're about $24 brand new, but I only paid $5 for it, so I'll be able to give somebody a good deal on it because it's an AXA size. It corresponds to an Aloris AXA size tool post, which I no longer have an AXA size tool post. I had one a while back. It was actually a DTM, Dovetail Manufacturing. It was a really nice post with several holders that I sold. Kind of wish I hadn't sold it now because I've got a couple of small lathes that I picked up a while back that I might end up restoring one of them and keeping it for the shop, and that AXA would have been a nice size for that. But anyways, so that was the first pick for $5. Next pick was dealer had, he was a retired machinist, and at least that's what he said, and he had a whole bunch of scales out there, and I was looking at the machinist scales and noticed that these were all Starrett. He had some other ones too, but I picked out these 4 because these are all hook scales. They all have the little attachment on the end there that turns them into hook scales, so they caught my eye, and I asked him, how much. I forgot how much he said they were. But I asked him how much if I took all of, if I took several of them. And then I spotted these 4 Starrett C391, I think, fishtails in great shape. There's 4 of them in there. And they, I asked him how much for the fishtails, and he says, I said, would you take 20 for the lot? And he agreed to that. But before he agreed to that, he told me, he says, I got to ask you, he said, if you can tell me the correct name for this, I'll do it. And I said, it's a center gauge. So he gave me that lot for the $20, which is a good deal. And then I was pleasantly surprised afterwards. I got back to the shop and I was looking at them. And realized that, a couple of things. First off, I knew I had at least one of these, but the one that I have is right here. It's the steel one, and it's got engraving on the back. Otherwise, it's in great shape. But I actually prefer the satin finish. It's a little easier to read. So the first thing I noticed was, okay, well, I don't have one of these in the satin finish, so I'm going to keep one of these for myself. All right, and get rid of that one. And then the other thing I noticed was this is not the same as the others. This is a 606. These are all 604s. This is a 606. So unlike these, which are in 64ths fractional, this is base 10. So this is in 100,000ths. So the scale actually is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then would be 10, which is nice. So I'm going to keep that one. I already have a C391 fishtail, so I'll offer those all up. And then I haven't decided yet about this tiny little scale here. This is again, this is a Starrett. This is a 610, I think it says. 610N? I haven't looked this up yet, but it's kind of an interesting little tiny hook scale. So just a little bit of a better look at this really small little hook scale. Next, I came across a dealer who didn't have any machinist tools, but I spotted this. Caught my eye because it was in the box. It's a General Hardware number 835. This is an angle dividing tool for builders, and I thought it was kind of neat. It's engraved, but what's kind of cool about this thing is that this is a specially designed device that basically lets you mirror the angle on one side over to the other side. So I can't think of any valid application in the machine shop for something like this. Maybe metal fabrication, but I think it's primarily designed for builders. Actually says right on the box for carpenters, builders, and well, the rest of the box is missing, so I don't know what it said. But it basically allows you to transfer an angle from one place to another, and also, I could see, like, if you're working with making cuts on rafters and that, roof rafters where they tie in to a ridge or something like that. So that's kind of a neat thing. These trade on eBay for anywhere from a low of $15 for, a rusty one that's got more corrosion on it with no box, to I've seen them go as high as like 40 for one that's like new in the box. But I only gave $5 for this, and I just thought it was kind of a neat little tool, so no big deal there. Next dealer I came across, I've bought from him before. He's always got a mishmash of different stuff, and he didn't have too much for me this particular trip, but what he did have was he had this aluminum rigid brand 18-inch pipe wrench. This is the offset kind, so it's got a little bit of a different shape to it. So I asked him how much for the wrench, and I found this handle, which is clearly a vise handle for like an old Bridgeport vise or something. It's a small size. I can't find any markings on it. It looks like a pretty early one. But he took $10 for the two items. So, anytime you can buy an 18-inch rigid aluminum pipe wrench for $10 is a pretty good deal. I'd love to be able to change out all of my pipe wrenches to aluminum ones. They're just so much lighter to work with. But anyways, so I'll see if I don't have a use for this handle, I'll probably just advertise it for sale to somebody. And then another dealer who sells a lot of tools, it's all he does is tools. He just get these big bins that people just dig through. And I was looking through the bins, and I usually don't find anything at that particular dealer, and then I happen to spot this Roper Whitney punch set, hand punch. So this is for punching holes in, unfortunately the clasp is broken and the hinge is about ready to completely fail, so the box is kind of toast, even though it's actually in pretty clean shape. The punch looks brand new. I don't think it's ever been used. There's still oil on all of the dies. And the other reason why I think it's brand new, there's no wear shown on the handles. And initially, I thought it was missing a die. And it's two pieces. Each one of these is for one size. So you've got to put this in the bottom and this in the top. Well, the reason why there's one missing here is because it's in there. And the one that's in there, when they go to sell this thing, they install one die and punch or in here, and then they paint it. So it's got the paint, the original factory paint, all over it. So it's never been, you can see it on the threads, so this has never been removed. So that's why I'm pretty confident this is brand new. And it was funny because last time I was at the used tool store, there was a guy who got there early because the first in line is the first to go in, because he came for something specific. And what he came for was a smaller version of this. It's a smaller set that had less punches and dies in it. So I didn't even realize that was there. And I didn't realize I wanted one until until that guy showed up early to get one. And so then I, as luck would have it, that same week, I go to the flea market and I find this one, and I asked the guy how much, and he says, make me an offer. I said $20, and he took it. So I got this for $20. You can buy these used for around $20 or not much more on eBay. but they're not going to tend to have as many dies as this one has. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one has 7, and they're all there. And this one is brand new. It even has the little parts list with instructions, and it even has the little key. It actually says Roper Whitney right on it. This key is for adjusting the dies. So if I ever need to make holes of any of these sizes in sheet metal, I'll be good to go. I don't know what gauge. I mean, I'm sure there's a limit here to what you can punch with this thing. It says for maximum safety, don't use damaged punches and dies. Don't punch over the capacity of the tool. All right, but it doesn't. Be sure to punch within the 1-ton capacity of this tool, and the type and thickness of the material versus final hole size will give you this tonnage. Okay, so you basically gotta. There's probably a chart somewhere, maybe online, that tells you what the, like, you know, if you're punching through sheet brass, obviously it's going to be different than, or aluminum, it's going to be different than other materials. The larger the hole, the more force you're going to have to exert. So, anyways, I don't know. I'm pretty happy for 20 bucks. This was a nice little find, especially since this was later in the morning, and you know, by this point, a lot of the pickers had already been through and picked a lot of the great stuff, including myself. So I was kind of surprised to see this chuck still laying there with a couple other chucks. The other ones all had shanks on them, and they were just regular Jacob's key chucks, and you know, I forgot what he wanted for those. But he didn't value this chuck very much because it didn't have a shank on it. So I got this for $8, and it turns out this is an Albrecht of Germany, keyless chuck, 0 to 3/8 inch. It's dirty, but the jaws look great. So that really was a nice little surprise. It turns nice and free too. It's not all rusted. So I was quite happy to find that, even though I kind of have a bumper crop of keyless Albrecht chucks right now. Then I found a dealer who had quite a few Machinist items laying there. And as I had mentioned, this is already a little bit later in the morning, so all of the pickers that were looking for the real huge scores pretty much had been through this guy's stuff. Either that or he came in later. So initial pricing on a lot of this stuff was kind of tough, but I ended up working with him and putting together a pile, and ended up deciding on taking this pile right here. But I gave $95 for this pile, so it wasn't a gift by any means. So let's take a look at what we've got here. There's some nice stuff, and then there's some problematic stuff. So let's start with just as simple. This is a simple thread file. It's made in the USA by Nutrix, N-U-Trix. So I have one of these now. I'm going to just check and make sure that the one I have, if the one I have is the same sizes that's covered by this one, a number 1, then I'll sell one. If not, then I'll keep it. Thread files are a really handy tool for when you inadvertently have some slightly damaged threads on something. In this Brown & Sharp case, which is marked Swiss made, is what I believe to be pretty early, based on the wooden box and the clasp, an early best test of a style I've never seen before. So this has got kind of an interesting shape to it. It reminds me of the Mitutoyos that I've come across of this design, that has this long, slender snout, which is handy for reaching into a hole or a bore. It actually appears to work perfectly fine. This is the style that you get to flip the lever, change direction. So it's a little slow in coming back in one direction, but that actually, since you get it preloaded anyways, that usually doesn't end up being an issue. This one might, this one probably could use a cleaning. It's interesting that it seems to be fine in one direction but not the other. So I'll have to think about what I got to get for this one. I really don't want to send this one out for repair, because by the time, considering what I paid for this lot, by the time I have it repaired, it's not going to have much resale left in it. But anyways, nice little best test. Here's a small hole gauge set. These are, I believe these are also Starrett. Got a set similar to this now. We'll just have to check and make sure it's the same sizes. Yeah, so this is a Starrett 831 set. So there's two versions of these small hole gauges. So I don't know if you could see that or not, but this has a flat bottom to it. And there's another version where it's more of a ball, more of a complete sphere on the end. So these let you go down to the bottom of a blind hole and get a measurement. Oh, I had forgotten. I actually I sold the Starrett set that I had like these when I got a hold of a Brown and Sharp set, almost identical. But the Brown and Sharp set is, again, it's in that satin chrome finish, and the case is a little bit nicer. Although there's nothing wrong with this case, it's just the Starrett marking is worn off of here. Probably was cleaned off with solvent at some point. Who knows? I can sell those. And then another 579 set. So this is actually a pretty nice set right here. I just sold another one of these not too long ago. So this is the self-centering style where both sides move, as opposed to the other Starrett version of this where it has one side is fixed. So that'll be a nice set for somebody. And this was a disappointment. I did spot this before I purchased it, and I pointed it out to him when I was trying to get him down on price. This is Starrett S154L parallel set of 6 Starrett parallels. This is a pretty pricey set. Even used, these tend to bring pretty good money. It's got 2 problems with it. Problem number 1 is it's missing the second size, the 1/2 inch to 11/16, which is actually normally letters that correspond to these. Yeah, so this is an A. Yeah, and that's a C. So it's missing the B, and then the this is the E. The E has some pretty bad damage on the ends here. Now, that being said, even with this chipped off on the end, even though it's got this big chunk missing from it on the end, it actually still works perfectly fine. It could be used. There is, now that I just noticed, I didn't notice that, it's also missing the screw. So I'll have to definitely make a note of that. It's not in the case. All right, so we'll have to give somebody a deal on this thing. These individual Starrett adjustable parallels, I've sewn the individual ones in the past, of course, not knowing that I would end up finding a set one day that was missing some and could use some. Might have been a good idea to hold on to them, but hey, what are you going to do? So B and E should be replaced to make this a 100% set. And the pouch has got some damage. And then the last item here is this Starrett depth micrometer. It's an older version of the is it the 440? Forget. 445. So it's an older version of a 445 depth micrometer. There's some crud on here. I don't know if that's going to clean off or not. It's not rust, which is good. But what's nice is all the rods are here and they're not rusty. They look good. So this is a 0 to 6 depth mic. Pretty decent shape. So I'm not going to make a lot of profit on this in the end, but it'll, I'll make a little. And then the final purchase of the day, I was actually on my way out, and I went by a dealer who I had bought a small lot of Machinist items from a couple weeks back, and he made me pay, all the money for those items. I thought, those of you who watch all my videos may recall there was a Mitutoyo dial caliper in there, and the only reason I got that was because he prize the Starrett stuff over everything else. So I saw this Starrett box, and of course it's empty, which is actually good, because if it had what was supposed to be in it, he probably would want the moon for it as far as value. I recognize, based on, you know, the shape and everything, that this is for a Starrett height gauge, probably a 12-inch height gauge. Box is in great shape, no height gauge, and I almost didn't even want to ask, you know, but I said, hey, well, what do you want for it? $5. So I said, you know what, for $5, I'll take it. $5, I'll take it, because you never know. I might just come across a Starrett 12-inch height gauge, or somebody I know for all I know, may already have one sitting there and doesn't have a box for it, might enjoy having a nice box for it and be willing to pay me 10 or 15 bucks for the box, you know. Alright guys, so as always, if you enjoyed what you saw in the video, please hit the like button, and if you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing. Take care.